Hi everyone, in today's video we're going to look at a not commonly spoken about topic, which is density of training. Now all I mean by that is how the days fall with your training and what that means for your mileage, because sometimes on the surface the progression of mileage can look really sensible and the week can look great, but it can have some undisclosed risk or unidentified risks at times as well. Now, in this context, this was actually 3 weeks of my training a while ago now, but this was something when I came up with the idea for this video, I wanted to note down because it is an important issue, something I was very aware of at the time when it came to looking at my training. So most people, or a lot of people track their Strava or their Garmin mileage or Coros, looking at the weekly mileage and averaging that out, and that's the main focus, which isn't necessarily wrong, but if you end up having to change your training week around for some reason, it can lead to some change in density, which can pose some risk to injury. Now, if you're coming back from injury and you're trying to get back as quick as you can, juggle mileage, you really want to be very mindful of this in particular. So these 2 weeks, this was a couple of years ago now, but this is basically off the back. This is about fourth, fifth week back of training initially here, and then I was building that back up. So perfectly sensible 40-mile week. Next week, 42, 44. Lovely, straightforward, couple miles a week, nice and sensible. Predominantly coming from the long run mileage, as you can see here as well. So again, nothing too risky. But because we're pushing on the paces and I had a time frame in mind for a particular marathon I was training for, I was trying to jump the mileage up a little bit. Still sensible, so I was going from a slightly harder session here because I've become a little bit used to these things. So kind of a couple of 11s and 12, a couple more 11s. I was happy with that. I'd kept active. I didn't have any aches, pains, or issues at the time. Everything was settled really nicely. So the 13 was a little bit of pace in there, trying to make it a bit tougher. But coming into the next week, I knew that only 2 more miles, but the density was going to have an impact. Now, what it meant is this 15 was a lovely, easy 15 miles, just a nice little pootly session. This was a little bit tougher, but again, this one here was quite easy. Now, although this is going to fall out of the 7-day window of density that we're going to consider, this still had to be an easy session because of the density that had come before it. So if we draw the line here, so after the Friday, so onto the Saturday session on week 2 and the Friday session on week 3. Now, what it means here, we've got 53 miles of training in that week. Now, that is a lot. We've got 5 runs in there, which is also a bit high. You can see most weeks I'm doing 4 runs, but just how it fell with having to do a run on a Friday before I could do it on the Saturday, then it meant a very, very dense week. So there was an additional risk of that, which we want to be trying to avoid. So it is really important that we look at things like density here, because although on paper this is a 44-mile week, that 7-day period is 53 miles, which from 42 is quite the jump. So even in these other periods, you're going to have much lower densities. Now, often you'll have that big density and then you have a big sparse patch. So the next 7-day period might only be 30 miles, so it still evens out, 30, 32 miles, for instance. So it still evens out on paper, but this density isn't something we can ignore. Our body doesn't work on paper. Our body works in the reality of what we're doing to it and how quickly we recover. Now, my nutrition was good, my sleep and recovery was good, and I was sensible with these types of sessions, so it was fine. But it's something I've seen a lot of times with people where they do maybe some racing, they then try and jumble their training up and then they pack it in the end of the week to still get their weekly mileage, whether it be for Strava charts or whatever they're working on towards their monthly average goal or their year target. And then there's some aches, pains, or sometimes occasions of injuries as well. So it is really important to think about this stuff in your training. If you're working with a coach, they should be working on this with you and making sensible choices with that with you. If you're working on your own, just make sure you consider this.